Good morning. I want to thank everybody for coming out on a hot July morning, especially for being the summer. We've got an excellent audience and, of course, some important information. So with that, I'll turn it over to the secretary to call the roll.
President Hagerty. Absent. Vice President Robinson.
Here.
Treasurer Narden. Secretary Wetmore, present. Director Davis. Director Raba. Director Cordelli. Mr. Vice President, you have a quorum.
Thank you, David. Would you please, I'll call the meeting to order, and please rise for the pledge. Thank you. Okay, I need a approval for the April 12th, 2022 board meeting. Do I have a second? All those in favor? Aye, so moved. Shauna.
Good morning. I've prepared a very short report this morning so we can get to our special guest speaker. So bear with me a moment. We'll get through this as quick as we can. So we'll jump right in with drainage. We have had a lot of drainage issues in the community going on lately, especially with all of the rain that's been happening. This is a list of repairs. I'm not going to read through all of them that we've done over the last couple of months. Most notably is the emergency repair that we just recently completed on Kings Boulevard. These photos here will kind of give you an idea of the magnitude of that repair. We were told it was an emergency, so we had everything shut down. The contractor was in right away, and we tried our best to get it completed for the holiday weekend, but unfortunately the asphalt plant was closed that Friday, so we had to leave it, but on Monday they got it taken care of and opened back up. And then irrigation. We've had a lot going on here. We've completed 1,356 work orders, 342 inspections, 113 alterations, and we took 39 emergency calls. Again, this is a list of everything that we've done. You can see that's quite a bit. Some of the notable ones here were the recharge well that we drilled in Portsmouth and Corinth. These lovely scuba divers that you see right here, they were putting a pond in Oakley Green. That was a 10 horsepower pump replacement. And then this nice picture in the corner is of a TECO pole that fell over on Gloucester Boulevard during a repair we were doing for a pressure release valve. That was not fun, but it was handled very quickly, very carefully. Nobody was hurt, thank goodness. And I would like to say a big thank you to everybody involved that helped. The ITS crew was on it immediately, getting everything safe and directing traffic. TECO was here within 15 minutes, and then Vestas Security was also on the scene to help out with traffic, which we greatly appreciated. And then just a reminder down here in the corner about the patterning coverage that we had a meeting about last month. Planning for that is in progress. We did meet with the Federation Landscape Committee Chair as well as First Services Landscape Coordinator. They are both very supportive of the plan and are on board, so we're working on that, and then we should have something ready to present to the membership in September. And we are very excited that the Pond Committee was able to obtain a $2,500 grant from the Audubon Society. The Master Association matched it, so they had $5,000. And with that, they installed over 4,000 pickleweed and duck potato plants. The plants are very important. They help with the plant stabilization. It improves the water quality, and then it also provides habitat for the wildlife. And this is a list down here in the corner of where all the plantings are in case you'd like to go by and take a look. And these are just some miscellaneous repairs. We've removed 12 trees, 8 potholes. Lovely picture of the speed limit sign down here. They continue to get knocked down, and we put them back up. We completed the quarterly pressure washing. Actually, the second quarter is in progress right now, and on the second quarter, they're going to get the monument signs there. We did a couple of repairs at the front gate. We replaced the awning, some canister lighting, and one of the LED tracks needed to be replaced. And so speaking of the front gate, just in case you missed it, we went blue for the Tampa Bay Lightning during the Stanley Cup Finals, and then red, white, and blue on the 4th of July. So for special events and holidays, you might want to take a ride out at night and see what's going on there. I sound like a broken record, but please, 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 please slow down. Speeding continues to be a problem. You can see the numbers here and how high they are. Just be careful. We really don't want anybody to get hurt. And then it's worth mentioning, everyone should know double yellow lines mean no passing. I don't think everybody knows that. And this absolutely includes golf carts, so please do not go around the golf carts. It's very dangerous. We don't want anybody to get hurt. Know where you're going. You don't need to get there so quick that it's worth endangering your life or somebody else's. So please watch your speed and be cautious of the yellow lines. And then a couple of reminders. Hogs are back. It's that time of year again. We have traps right now in the Knolls and the Fairfields. Our trapper has a field cam on both of the locations, and he provided us with these lovely photos of a man walking his dogs near the traps, and a lady who I'm not sure what she's doing. She's just kind of hanging out there. But when they get the scent of people and dogs around the traps, the hogs are very smart. They will not go in. So please just avoid the area. Don't walk your pets near the area. Just leave them alone. And then with the alligators, we are constantly getting calls about aggressive alligators, and they become aggressive when people feed them. And that's been something we have been having reported a lot. So we would like to remind you that it's not only dangerous, but it is against the law, and it is much more than a fine. You could be charged with a second-degree misdemeanor. So if we see anybody feeding alligators, if anyone reports someone feeding alligators, we will report it to Florida Fish and Wildlife. And then lastly, or almost lastly, it's important that everybody stay informed. I'm not sure if everyone is aware, but the management and governing entities in the community do not share email databases. So in order to receive updates from the Master Association on important things like disaster planning, road closures, safety notifications, irrigation outages, and such, you want to make sure you are signed up with us. We've tried to make that very easy. There's several ways to do it that we have listed here. We also have a table in the back where you can sign up. And if you are an association president and you would like to collect the email addresses from your association, just let us know and we'll send you a form that you can take out and use to do so. And now, lastly, I would just like to say thank you to the Kings Point Disaster Planning Committee. They have been doing tremendous work, working very hard, putting a comprehensive plan together for the community. I think what they're doing is truly wonderful. In particular, they helped us put together the special edition of the News of Kings Point, which is focused on disaster planning. This is a very valuable resource, so we hope everybody will hang on to it throughout the hurricane season. It's also available on our website, and we do have some copies on the table over there if anyone would like to pick one up. And with that, I will turn it over to Chris for new business.
Yeah, before I go there, I would like to remind people, along with the speeding, the turn signals are not automatic. You actually got to put your finger on the lever, but it's automatic when you turn. It actually shuts off, and that's pretty spectacular. The other thing is that funny-looking red sign that says STOP on it. It does mean stop, because you see a lot of people just boom, boom, boom. So please slow down, take your time. You're retired. It doesn't take an extra 30 seconds to get to the front gate, that's all. So with that, I'll turn it over to Jane, our treasurer.
Good morning. As you know, we have received the agreed-upon settlement from the mediation agreement with the Federation regarding the lawsuit. As we needed to deposit this money as soon as possible, I advised Vesta to deposit into the pooled reserves account. I would like to recommend to the board to move this money into a restricted reserve account to be used for a project that would benefit the entire community. Pending the proposals from the Planning Committee on several projects, the use of these funds will be voted on at a later date. I would like to make a motion for the board to approve moving those funds to a restricted account. Second. Aye.
So moved.
Thank you.
Okay, we've got a list of items that we've in our board the board workshops. We get our Gary, who's our road and drainage consultant, and from Shauna we get updates on what needs to be done. But in order to spend the money, we have to go ahead and approve these. So without further ado, ratify the approval of board repair on Longagen by Rose Paving. I need a motion? Second, I should say I need a second. Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? So moved. Approve the 18-inch pipe replacement at Haringey by Global Engineering. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? So approved. Motion to approve the underdrain repair at Laughlin by Global Engineering. All those, second, I need a second? Okay, any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Okay, the underdrain, a motion to repair the underdrain at Hungerford by Global Engineering. That's the one that closed Kings Point, or Kings Boulevard, rather. I need a second. All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, ratify the approval for the double grate seat frame and grate replacement at McDaniel, on McDaniel by Global. All those in favor? Any opposed? Approve the storm drain box repair in Princeton by Global Engineering. All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, at this time, I'd like to introduce Mike Bardell to introduce our guest from Hillsborough County.
Okay, thank you. I'm Mike Bardell. I'm the chief of the emergency squad. And on behalf of the disaster committee, we'd like to tell you that we appreciate all the enthusiasm that's gone for disasters. We're hoping that all this work is for nothing and we get nothing. But you got to prepare, you got to make a plan. You always hear us say, did you got to make a plan? So we believe in that. And now with this new thing of the new evacuation zones, I want to tell you, I take this serious. So as captain of my own dinghy, you know, I hear and we have both oars in the water, you know, for you. But there are some problems and challenges with this because if you notice on this dinghy here, it says that I exceed the maximum weight limit. So in order to improvise this, I came up with two solutions. One is to lose weight. The other one is to row really quick. Being as how the first one usually doesn't work, I'm going to row for real quick. So there's a takeaway for this, and that is the fact, if I am in this dinghy, get out of my way. But if it is, you shouldn't be there anyway. We just need to prepare for it, and hopefully this will never come. But I believe being prepared is part of the better valor of it. It's very hard to do something when you don't have a plan. If you have a plan, you can always modify it. But we decided with this change in the evacuation zones to bring someone in for the county that can tell you why the changes of the zones were, and that you would be able to ask them questions of what's there rather than taking a third party from us. But thank you, and I'm going to introduce Bill Miller. Bill Miller is no stranger to Kings Point and to Sun City. He's been working with the radio club there for years. So, Bill, I'll let you take it.
Thank you, Mike. No, I'm afraid my wheelchair is too much weight for it by itself. To Mike's point about planning, several of us groups who are working out of the EOC do this year-round. Some of it is, as Mike said, I work with the radio club here. Some of it is reviewing our stuff at the radio club. Some of it's ensuring my volunteers get the appropriate training so they're ready to go if we have a plan. Don't think when it comes to 1 June, when the hurricane season starts, that's the time to do your plan. It really ought to be a review every year and make sure you don't need to make any changes, just like we do it. Go ahead, next slide, please. But as far as plans go, don't think that the disaster planning stops with hurricane season. We've had human-caused disasters in the area, not necessarily taking care of the whole county. But several years ago, some kids decided to drill holes in the ammonia pipeline up in Riverview. Okay? There's been accidents with trains coming off the tracks and stuff. So a disaster can happen at any time, from the hurricanes that we all think about to a truckload of material spilling, and we've got to protect the community from health hazards. So it could happen anytime, just you need to be ready for it. Okay, the outlook of our hurricane season, go ahead and put the whole one up there. This year is more than we've been having, but there's a lot of surprises. We got 19 named storms, 4 major hurricanes forecasted. Keep in mind, we've already had 3 named storms, and this is just the middle of July. So it is looking to be active. And last year, if you all remember, one storm came to us in May, and another one came to us in December. So, you know, that 1 June to 30 November, that's just a target area. They can come at any time. Next one. Okay, to review the classes, tropical depression is less than 39 miles an hour. The tropical storm is 39 to 73, and hurricanes start at 74 miles an hour. We have 5 classes, you know, category 1 through 5. Category 5, the worst, starts at 150 miles an hour, or goes greater than 175. So it's really a good blow, and some of the people up in the Panhandle a couple of years ago with Michael didn't even think that, you know, a regular hurricane would hurt them, and lo and behold, in 24 hours, it went from a tropical storm to a Cat 5. So you always have to be ready. So we've had Alex, Bonnie, Colin. There is a tropical depression forming down around the Louisiana and Texas line. It shouldn't impact us, but a lot of us that deal at the county level, we still keep an eye on things like that because you don't know when they're going to turn and where they're going to go. So damages, 49% come from the storm surge, 27% come from the rain, and the other 25% or 23% come from all other factors. So storm surge is the one we really have to worry about. And you hear some of the meteorologists say, run from the water, hide from the wind. And there's more truth in that than you believe. Some people don't necessarily understand the power of water. But I personally saw, I'm going to go over the other side a little bit, so I'm not on one side of the room. I personally saw a destroyer that took a major wave during a storm over the bow, and it ripped the gun mount right off the front of that destroyer. So the point being is water can do a lot of damage. And you know, you just have to be ready for it. Run from it, don't hide. You can still be picked up if you're hiding. Next one, please. Okay, based on 2020 census, one of the things that's happened since I've gotten involved with the community is 3 years ago, we had 1.2 million residents as of this in Hillsborough County. As of this last census, we've got 1.5 million. That's a lot of people to look out for. Almost 75,000 more went into evacuation zones this year with some of the changes. And 55,000 came out. So we had a little bit of an increase in total residents. The county has planned for 44 shelters to open if we need them. And when we get to the map here, you'll see how much of the area is in evacuation zones. And keep in mind, evacuation zones and flood zones are a little bit different. Next one, please. Okay, storm surge. This is what gets people. Most of you are familiar with our tidal changes. You go to the beach, you can see the marks on the sand for the high tide, and when the tide's out, you can see all the wet packed sand from the low tide. Well, storm surges are added to whatever that tide is. So if you got from the water level up to the peak of a hill, you got 10 feet there, the storm normally comes up 6 feet. You come in and add a tidal surge, you know, they're using it 17 feet. That means you got 7 feet of water over the top of that knoll at low tide. At high tide, it's going to go up another 6 or 8 feet depending on the tide. Now, Hillsborough County's on the inland side of the bay. So when a storm passes us and we're in the right-hand quadrant of it, it's going to push the water right under the Sunshine Bridge and right towards us. So if the winds are out of the southwest, we actually can have more flooding water than what is forecasted. Okay? How many of you heard of the enlarged moon we've had in the last couple days? Quite a few of you. The moon has a big draw on our tides. When we're close to the moon and we have those large moons, high tides are higher. This too adds to the floodplain. And a couple years ago, downtown Tampa got flooded. We were at high tide, the winds were out of the southwest, and we had an enlarged moon. So the perfect storm if you made a flood Tampa. And we all living near the coast have got to keep those in mind. Next slide, please. What can we do now? Same thing we do all year in our roles, is you need to plan now. If you have a plan, you need to review it. Some of the challenges, I talked about the ammonia spill a couple years ago. What are you going to do if something like that happens near your house? Does everybody in the family know where to meet and know where to go to or how to get a hold of each other? People in general think, well, we can always get with our cell phones. Well, sometimes the cell phones get taken out by events. So you need to have a plan to handle those things so everybody in the home knows where to go. As well as during hurricane season, do we have food? One of the big changes that's happened in the last couple of years, FEMA used to say have 3 days worth of food and water. Their recommendation is now 7. you know, because the aftermath can take a long time because you got to get the roads and stuff cleared before you can bring in the people to do the repairs and put your services back in place. So, you know, that just doesn't happen overnight. Next one. What's our risk? I do have one of the charts printed out. Yeah, if you get one of the disaster preparedness guides, there's a map in there. Are you in one of those zones? Because that could put you at risk. If you're not at one of the zones, are you in a place that's going to get high traffic because of people going to it? You know, we've had people try to evacuate out down the east coast of Florida and lock up 75 so nobody can go anywhere. So you need to know what your risk is. Next one. So our hurricanes bring many hazards. Storm surge, tornadoes. We have tornadoes every year in the county, in Hillsborough. In fact, Monday, I was headed down to the Emergency Operations Center, and I looked in my rearview mirror, and I had a white water spout just perfectly lined up between the trees. One of those, why don't I have my camera moments? It looked really neat, but I also know it was real dangerous for the people that were near it. And let's face it, a water spout is just a tornado over the water. Damaging winds and flooding. Well, I mean, we talk about being prepared for anything, not just hurricane. One of the towns up in Connecticut, I think it was on the news this morning, they had 70-mile-an-hour winds last night, straight line winds. No tornado, no hurricane. We've had some cases here in this community where people have gotten straight line winds that have ripped carports off and done damage to houses. So those can come anytime, not just in a hurricane. And then lastly, the flooding. That's going to be one of our biggest concerns and people killer is being in those flooded zones. Next slide, please. Continue. So we got seven, did I count that right? 7 zones, A, B, C, D, and E. And if you look at the maps, can I borrow your book for just a minute? Thank you. This is the book I'm talking about. We have plenty of copies over on the tables, and you can get one before you leave if you don't already have one. But it goes everything from Zone A, which starts with mobile homes and people in low-lying areas, to Zone E, which is the worst storm surge we could get. So you need to know where you sit in that. And I do know that they added part of the southern part of your community into storm surge E this year. And there are some concerns. We'll take some questions in a bit. Next one, please. Okay. If you live in a mobile home or a manufactured home, you need to get out for a hurricane, because if the floodwaters don't get you, the winds could. And we have in this county an awful lot of parks and communities that are either mobile homes or pre-manufactured homes. And yes, you can go get your hurricane tie downs and do everything you can, but Mother Nature can be really nasty when she decides to, and you don't want to rely on them for coverage. Next slide. So if you look closely at this picture, it's hard to see with this much light, but about halfway up that palm tree is a sheet of plywood that got pushed through it. And I know when I was in high school, a day or two ago, we had a picture that had been taken in the area of a piece of straw that went through a telephone pole, and the straw was perfectly straight. So when Mother Nature decides to take advantage of the situation, she can do a real good job of taking things down. relocating. You want to move over there? Okay, let her move your house. Then you can buy a new one, you know. So just be careful and look out for you and your family. Family comes first. And you have a lot of volunteers in this community and around the county, and we always tell them, your family comes first, come and volunteer after you get them taken care of. So, again, all part of your plan. All right, we're going to try to take it a little easy, take it easy with me on these questions, as there may be some I don't know, but I do want to get if there is one, I'm going to write it down. I got some other people taking notes, and we'll do what we can to get you the answer.
We have a microphone up here if you'd like to come up and ask a question. I do have a question about the Miami-Dade building codes that a lot of the southern part of Kings Point, you know, with our wind mitigation on our roofs and people with hurricane windows. What's their status as far as the evacuation E-zone?
Okay, when you say with the building codes, what do you mean by their status? I'm not sure I
I
understand.
mean, are the way that the buildings are constructed, I don't know whether it was 150 mile an hour for Miami-Dade code. I think it was the 2004 codes.
Okay. Physically here in this building, we're not in a zone. Down in the southern part of the community, it's zone E, the gray one.
Okay, we have some mics going around. Just raise your hand and Mike and Sheila will get to you.
Okay, I just want to know where we evacuate. I mean, there's different things here. It's like 33, which is on Lake Drive, and then we have one that's on Cypress Creek Elementary.
Okay. That will be, excuse me. When we have, and when evacuations are ordered, they'll announce what shelters are opening. I do know that you have that high school down there, number 33, I forget the name of it right now, and over on 19th, you've got Beth Shields and, no, it's Beth Shields Middle and something elementary. And I'm drawing a blank on the elementary. They're right there together, and both of those are also shelters. But what I've noticed working with the county over the last few years is the order of the shelters on that list, 1 through 33, does not mean that's the order they're going to open them up. They're going to look at predictions. They're going to look at availability of the facility. Maybe they're getting some work done. Maybe their generator's not working. There's a multitude of things that goes into deciding what shelters are ordered. So when the order comes out, there will be an announcement of what shelters are open or will be open to evacuate to. Does that help you?
Yeah, you mentioned that everybody in a trailer or manufactured home had to evacuate. Almost all of our flat tops were manufactured in a factory. Does that mean that those people that live in a flat top have to evacuate?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that, but I'll get it for you.
Morning. My name is Joe Lapiana. I've lived here 20 years. Never had to evacuate because it was an old flood zone. We're 6 miles from the sea, the water, and we're 41 feet above sea level. What changed to make us go now? We never had to evacuate before.
My understanding is the fact that water levels have risen, erosion's taken place, and there's been more realization about is it the Little Manatee over here just south of you? about it and the floodplains. I'm like you, I've been in the community for some time, and I've never had to either. But bottom line is water levels are rising, and the county and FEMA preserve the right to get smarter about this stuff and preserve more lives. So that's all I can tell you at this point.
Yes, I've lived in Florida all my life. I grew up in Bradenton, and when Hurricane Donna came through, when was that, 60 years ago, 69? It did not hit Bradenton, but I remember when I woke up in the morning that you could not see land, and people were out there in a Johnny boat. So maybe you will remember that story, because I will never forget it.
You know, that brings out a point. I live in an evacuation zone, but it's not because my house would be in the flood zones. All the roads around us would be flooded, and therefore you couldn't get in and out. And some of the people are being forced to evacuate, or not saying forced, but are told to evacuate because of those kinds of things as well. That might be part of the answer down in your area. I don't know. But get with me afterwards and let me get your address, and I'll go see what I can find out.
You may have just answered the question, but to expand on maybe Chris's question and all, if it's a manufactured home, you need to evacuate. You just said it's flooding and you need to evacuate. Even many of our homes were built solid cement block. They're built after a hurricane. They're solid homes. Do they need to, everybody needs to evacuate, I'm guessing. Is that true? Even if you live in a solid home?
If you're in the evacuation zone, yes.
Who declares when, like, we would have to evacuate? Is that the county or the state?
The county, the state will declare a state of emergency, and that empowers the county. The county will make the determinations of when to start the evacuations.
So that would depend on how strong the storm is.
How strong the storm is and its projected path. Yes, ma'am. I will have to get back to you. I've had that question a couple times today, and I know the evacuation zones don't necessarily correlate to flood zones and insurance, but let me get you a solid answer on that, because it impacts the pocketbook, and I want to make sure you get the right answer. All right.
When I look at the map, it looks like all of Kings Point is purple in an evacuation zone. I don't see any part of Kings Point that isn't.
I don't have a copy in front of me. I just have to. Can I borrow your map for a minute again, please?
It looks like a lot of the Fairfield and the Bedford are not in it, as far as that area is.
Please, if you want to speak, raise your hand and we'll bring you a mic. People are at home listening, and it's being taped. So just raise your hand and we'll bring you a mic.
While they're doing that, I do have a larger map over here to my left. It has a little more detail than what's in the books, and we can take a tighter look there. I haven't taken the time to blow up this area and see just how much of Kings Point is in it. I just looked at it and saw the relationship to 301, 674, and 75, and know that part of your community is in it. Yes, sir.
I'm Bob Preston, Community Emergency Response Team. I want to make a couple of comments to supplement what's been presented already, particularly in the issue of flooding. Earlier, our guest speaker spoke about the perfect storm, wind out of the southwest, a full moon, a hurricane. Add to that 3 or 4 days of rain in the community. That water has to go somewhere. It'll go into Cypress Creek, it'll go into the Little Manatee River. But if it can't get into the bay and the bay can't get out to the Gulf, we're going to have flooding. So think about flooding as not necessarily a storm surge, but an accumulation of water over time and other ideal situations. The second thing I'd like to talk about is evacuation. If the county orders evacuation, you have 2 choices, evacuate or not. You make that decision. Nobody's going to come around and chase you out. If you decide to stay, you're on your own. And don't worry about these lines. That's what the computer and the scientists have developed. They don't really mean a whole lot because we don't know everything about every storm.
Well, to add to that, those of you that need to evacuate or want to evacuate, first of all, there will be special needs shelters put out. Second of all, not all shelters are pet friendly, so you need to check that out for your situation. But especially if you're a special needs person and you need a ride, the county will put out a telephone number where you can call and they will organize transportation for you from your shelter. Because I know both in this community here and over in Sun City, we do have some people that need to go to the shelter, but may not have their driver's license or a car to get out on the street. They rely on a golf cart for all of their work. You know, some of those people we may have to help look out for. And that's why, you know, the buses are there for those situations.
I just want to remind people, as Sheila said, this is being taped. In addition to that, we will post the questions and the answers that Bill will do the investigation for on the website, kpmaster.com, okay? So that will be very helpful. The other thing is that he will probably be able to, as time goes on, give us a better feel for exactly what Zone E would require.
I would like to make a suggestion, and maybe it's just me who feels this way, but I feel very uneasy because I don't know specifically how my street that I live on falls into this zone, and therefore say what the percentage of risk I would be taking if I did not decide to evacuate. So I'm wondering if the master or the county could put together a list of the street names in Kings Point that should seriously consider evacuation. And that would certainly make me feel a lot better if I knew, even if my street was on it, at least I know I've got to really think about this.
Well, the way that I look at that map, I have to agree to the gentleman in the bleachers, because that appears that all of Kings Point and part of the southern part of Sun City Center to the east of us is in that E zone. And I might add that the police, the fire department, emergency, they're off the road after 35-mile-an-hour winds. And that's something you really need to think about if you're going to evacuate.
Not only are they off the road, but places like the fire stations, they plan on not going out. They turn the engines around so the windshields are towards the center of the building just in case their garage doors fail. So they take it seriously when the winds hit 35. As far as the question about the roads, I will look into it. I'll work with Mike. I think there's a potential I can go to our GIS group and get a map of just the Sun City area that with a little more detail. I don't know if I can or not, but I will look into that because I recognize concerns as far as, am I in the zone, am I not? But keep in mind, those are lines drawn on a map by computers and scientists. Once the flood gets here, they may morph one way or the other, and you just have to look out what's best for you and part of your plan.
I have two questions.
Yes, ma'am?
First, when the county declares that you have to evacuate, they will make a decision based on conditions, and it'll be one decision. It won't be a graduated decision. In other words, if they say zones, A through E need to evacuate, that's going to be it. They're not going to say zones A through C, and then in the next hour say A through E.
I have not seen them back down like that. I will say I've seen them go up because they decide to evacuate zone A, and then the storm intensifies, so they go to the next level. So I can see it going up. I don't see it going down.
So my decision to evacuate, if they say A through D need to evacuate, and I'm in zone E, then maybe I should make my way towards a shelter.
Yes, and to that point, anybody, whether you're in evacuation or zone or not, if you're uncomfortable with your situation, you're welcome at the shelters.
Okay.
So,
All right. My next question, I refer to the Master Association. I'd like to understand what happens with our ponds and the water level in the ponds. When I bought here originally, and I have flood insurance, okay, and I was told by my insurance agent we're talking about water from the ground up, okay. But when I bought here, I was told that there's a levee system for these ponds, so that if you're expecting a lot of rainwater, like it's going to rain for 40 days, you lower the level of the ponds. Is that true or not true?
No, we can't lower, we don't have any gates to open up to lower the ponds. We have what are called weirs, and they are at a level that when the water gets to the top of that weir, then they start to flow through the underground drainage system into Little Manatee, into the creek. But eventually, all that water is destined to go into Little Manatee State Park and into the Manatee River, Little Manatee River. Providing that Little Manatee isn't flooded. So, you know, it's like the two levels. If where the water is supposed to go is already full, then it stays right where it is. There's no way for it to flow.
Okay, but does it flow in reverse? Like if Manatee floods, Little Manatee floods first, is it going to start backing up into our ponds?
I would say that's possible, yeah.
Thank you.
I have a question. I'm a fairly new resident of Florida, so some of these words are a bit scary to me. Evacuation. How far in advance will you give the notice to evacuate?
the county will give the notice to evacuate. They have times that forecast to evacuate for certain areas because they know how big each area is. But they give plenty of time for those areas to get to shelters or to get out of the area. And again, it's going to vary by the speed of the storm, the strength of the storm, and the track of the storm.
Okay. And I understand evacuation is because of the potential of flooding, right? Not the wind or anything else, just water
Yes.
hazard coming at you.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
My question is, what are the evacuation routes for people that live in Kings Point? Is there a map that shows the evacuation routes?
You know, I don't know. I'll have to check it. I haven't seen the evacuation signs. I do know there's evacuation routes on 41 and 75, but I don't know other than, let me find out.
Yeah, the only way out of here, as we know, is 674. And if you go west, that's where the storm surge is going to be, so you're going to have to go east. So you either go out 674, use 301 to go north. You can use 672 to go inland also. 672 goes over to 39, 39 goes up to Plant City.
Yeah, that's one of the things that concern me about this area, and you see it every time there's a major accident. We only have three routes to go north on, 41, 75, and 301. So you need to plan accordingly, and like the gentleman says, you may need to go out west and pick up 39 or 27. So keep that in mind.
Okay, we are in
Yeah,
zone.
east, what'd I say? Oh, well. So my compass is 180 out this morning. Why it took me so long to get here?
We are in zone E now, right? Correct?
Yeah, the new ones in Kings Point are Zone E.
Zone E. Okay, I've been here now 22 years, so we never had to have flood insurance. Does that mean now that we have to consider getting flood insurance?
I would recommend you at least review flood insurance regardless of where you're at. Because even if you get a bad rainstorm, you know, like some of the people are on ponds and stuff, you could flood. Normal insurance policies don't cover floods. That being said, evacuation zones don't necessarily correlate to flood zones that require the additional insurance, or you're out of the areas that you get the cheaper flood insurance. They're two different things. Okay?
Okay. The other question would be, which is maybe something that I need to check with just window people, but being here, we never had these strong winds that we have now due to climate change, whether we want to admit that or not. Do any of you know what the original windows were, the category of the winds at the time? Does anyone know that?
The windows that I had in my house, I live in Portsmouth, which was built in '06. The windows that I had in my house were probably good to about 40, 45 miles an hour. Right now, I've got 150-mile-an-hour windows in my house.
Yeah, we have 135 in RLNI, but I don't know what the original house 20 years ago.
They were single pane, they were contract windows. For a lack of a better word, junk comes to mind. The other thing is flood insurance. Remember, if you sign the paper for flood insurance, it doesn't start today. It starts at least 30 days later. So if you're going to do flood insurance, and that's one of your things you want to do, think about when you think the peak is in September, and this is July. So think about
I
that.
understand. Thank you very much.
Hello?
1 second. On the thing with the windows and the wind speed, to your right, Mike, keep in mind it's not necessarily the wind that the windows have to protect you from. It's items being thrown at the windows by the wind. And think of that slide I had up there with the piece of plywood going through the telephone pole or the palm tree. So it's not just the wind that you're concerned about, it's objects being thrown against the windows.
If we choose not to evacuate, what are we giving up? Or what if emergency doesn't come after 35 miles per hour, or what else should we consider if we choose not to evacuate?
Well, it won't just be the emergency services, but any of the public services, from as simple as trash collection to underground pipe repair that, you know, water pipe breaks. So all of that stuff will be grounded at 35 miles an hour. And, you know, you're taking all of your risk at that point.
Okay, Bill, a couple questions, and then there's a couple people more that got questions. But number one, they can go on the county website and they can put in their address and they can see whether they are exactly in an evacuation zone or not. There are some subdivisions, my recollection of it is some of Fairfield and some of Bedford are not. Most everybody else is. But you could specifically type in your address and I believe they can go on KP Master and get hyperlinked to it, right? So you can go on kpmaster.com and then go to the site for the county. It will automatically hyperlink you to it, and then you can plug in your address and see for yourself. The other thing I talked to Bill beforehand was, would we qualify for flood insurance through the federal government, which is a little cheaper. It's an assistance program. And that answer is not known now. So that is another one we will get an answer to. But the whole thing is to make awareness of it, whether you want flood insurance or you don't want flood insurance, and you're going to make a pocketbook decision, and that's your choice. We just want to get you the information to make that quality decision. But another one I'd like to know, because of the county, I have always maintained that we have a lot of pets, that every other person in here has a pet. Could you show me by a set of hands how many people have a pet? Okay. This is how many people, and this is a representation, that at least 50% own pets in here, which means you got about 4,000 dogs, cats, or otherwise. Now, on the second part of it, for those of you that do have a pet, how many of you will evacuate if you can't take your pet? My point in all this is they only have a few pet shelters. That issue needs to be addressed because we're trying to do the safety of you, but my information I've done over the past few years, almost no one will leave without the pet. And I understand, it's a child. But it's something that the county has to address and has to look at when they design shelters for that. The other thing I will tell you is special needs. If you have a special need, you need to pre-register. And the reason is the medical people, they need to know what to plan for. And they can't know that if they don't know it in advance. Now, in a regular shelter, anybody can go to a shelter if you want to, correct?
That's correct.
So everybody qualifies for it. I don't care whether you're in an evacuation zone or not. If you feel more secure going to a shelter, go to a shelter. Everybody will take you. If there's room. But if there's not room and it fills up, the county will say, the next shelter is opening here, and it's your responsibility to get there. Have I misstated that?
No, no, you haven't. And while there are transportations for people that can't do themselves, it won't necessarily be available to go to the other one, take you to the other one.
Okay. And I believe you get 12 square feet of space allowable?
I don't remember that. It's a little bit more than what you can put a sleeping bag in.
Okay. And you hope it's all contiguous. Because if they give you 6 feet here and 6 feet over here, you're going to have some problems. Just crawl up in a ball. But I mean, and you can forget all about privacy. I mean, we're being honest about it. It's going to be close quarter situation with several hundred of your new closest friends. Going to the bathroom will be you're going to get a potty pass where you can go and take a number. But that's the way it's going to be for these emergency type situations. Okay, who had a hand up? I'm sorry.
Thank you. Quick question. I just want to refer everyone to page 10 of this book. We can be very proactive in preparing our own properties, and that includes cleaning your rain gutters, making sure all your patio furniture is secured and tied down so it's not going through windows. And also, I'd like to know what the master's addressing as far as removing trees with rotting trunks. Is Brown's going around, or do you have another vendor that's analyzing our trees, being very proactive is what I'm asking?
We have a contract with Brightview for debris cleanup on the roads that the master actually owns, which would be Kings, New Point Loop, Vilmont Greens, McDaniel, I believe, and Hammersmith, and Gloucester, and Nantucket. Those are the ones that the master's landscape person will clean up. The other roads, the side roads, are the association's landscaper that I believe is in their contract, or whether they're going to use the tree service that they have a contract with, depending on what company that is. Yes, okay, the question is the master proactively looking at trees that are a high possibility of coming down in high winds? And according to our manager, the answer is yes. And on the golf courses as well.
I've got a question as far as evacuation. I understand that you can go to a local school, but if you want to leave sooner, will 75 handle the traffic? Because I understand there are a lot of problems with that.
Take a look what happens when the snowbirds go back.
Yeah, exactly.
The answer to that is no.
Well, and keep in mind, if the storm were to come up the west coast of Florida, the people from Fort Myers to here are going to be trying to evacuate right up through here. So that's going to add to the crowds as well. So, you know, the roads are what they are, and we'll have to deal with them.
Excuse me, in the event of a major storm, what if we lose power, what grid are we on, and what's the possibility of the power being turned back on quickly, or would it be a few days, or are we on the same grid with like the hospital? And the second question I have, is there any kind of maintenance that they do with the storm drains? Making sure that they're all clear and not clogged up, and if anybody can answer.
The master does, we are continually keeping an eye on our drains. That's what that repair was on Kings right near Hungerford. That was a collapsed pipe. So that drain didn't do any good for anybody. And we have a camera that we can go down, I don't know how far we can go, but we also, our consulting firm that we use, Stantec, is it? Which one is it? Oh, Global Engineering. They have cameras that they put down inside of our drains and let us know what needs to be repaired. And that's why you wind up with, you know, close to a $30,000 repair when you have to dig up a road and change that big 18-inch pipe.
I can't help but wonder how much the insurance companies had to do with these new zones of evacuation.
Well, when somebody asked about the insurance challenges, keep in mind the evacuation zones do not correlate with the insurance flood zones. I will try to get an answer for the areas down, you know, in Kings Point here, but they are not mutually inclusive.
One of the first things that was brought up at the beginning of this meeting was, do you have a plan? Do you have a plan? You are responsible for yourself, nobody else. You are responsible. We talk about the term evacuation. The first time a dust ball blows off of the west side of Africa, you should be looking at your plan and deciding whether you're going to evacuate or not. An evacuation doesn't necessarily mean going to a shelter. Maybe you'll go visit somebody. Maybe you'll do a trip that you haven't done, that you've been planning on for a long time. The key is to get out of harm's way. If you think you're going to be harmed, make a decision, do something. And if you want to know what it's like in a shelter, go home and Google up Hillsborough County shelters in the past. As Mike said, you're going to have a lot of new, very, very close friends. I think there's a plan available. I believe it's through the Master Association online. You can look at what was presented earlier this year in our annual hurricane symposium. A lot of information in there. It's going to answer a lot of questions that we've been asked today.
And if you're going to a shelter, remember all the things you have to bring with you regarding bedding, food, water, all that has to come with you.
Okay, there's two other things. There's been some talk about, was the Master Association going to clear all the debris and stuff like that. That's a coordination thing that's commented, but Brown's Tree Service is actually operated through the Federation contracting system with the associations. Now, we just happen to have Joey here, which he oversees all the landscape contractors. And I'm gonna let him give you a very short answer about the Browns Tree Service and the same things that you were asking the master.
How you doing, everybody? So yeah, just to second what Mike just said, with the Federation, Browns is effectively looking at the trees while they just perform their full prune cycle through each association. Any hazardous trees were brought to our attention, and also estimates are being sent out to those associations of those hazardous trees that have been notified. So we are effectively working through that. Each vendor as well has a disaster plan in effect, which we're still reviewing, but we are planning to be prepared and making sure that there's less debris on the grounds if anything was to happen.
Okay, the other thing was, when we're talking about evacuation, nobody's gonna come and get you, collect, as been mentioned. It's gonna be upon you. But if the water starts to go up and you start to notice your feet getting damp in your house, you're a little late to start thinking about evacuating. Now, I'd like to tell you I'll be able to help you, but my boat only holds one, and I'm over weight limit, so I can't take passengers. But this is what you need to prepare on. But you're gonna have to decide, and you're gonna have to get yourself to a shelter. Don't depend on the county or local people to take you out of it. You're responsible. And if you do one thing, if you're gonna evacuate, evacuate early. If the shelter opens and you decide you wanna go, go now, okay? Don't wait, because that's gonna be the problem. And if you decide to evacuate out of the county to be safer, do it early. Because the one thing you do not wanna do is get caught in a storm in your vehicle and can't go anywhere because you're gridlocked. And just as Bill was mentioning, if it comes down around Fort Myers, all of those people down south are coming up I-75 or I-95, and they're coming our way, and the roads will be blocked. Am I correct, Bill?
You're correct.
Okay, thank you. Sorry to take up that, but I thought I'd give some answers.
Do we have any more questions out there? Mike?
I only walk so fast.
Yes, Kings Point for the most part appears to be an evacuation zone, and Sun City proper for the most part appears to not be an evacuation zone. Do you have any idea what the factors are for that? Could it be anything to do with Kings Point's drainage system?
No, I don't have anything to do with that. I'll have to go back and check. I know that there's some elevation differences from one side of the road to the other, but I can't tell you what any of that is.
Any other questions? Anybody? Raise your hand. I don't see any hands.
Mike, if I could just add real quickly, there's been a couple questions about the storm drains. So I just wanted everybody to know the master's being very proactive with the drains. We're in the process of having all of them inspected. We've already started in the Lancaster area. When they're inspected, if they're clogged, they're cleared out at that time. And if they find other issues, then they send us a report. And then we're prioritizing those and taking care of them as quickly as we can. And in addition to that, we also have a storm agreement with our engineer company. So in the event of a storm, Kings Point has priority. They'll have their men and equipment and pumps in here to do whatever they can to help.
Well, you've been a wonderful audience, real good questions. I hope I was helpful to you, and want to wish everybody a safe and happy day.
Okay, I want to thank Bill for coming out to talk to us and for the Disaster Planning Committee. Now we'll go to an open forum. If anybody has anything they would like to say, questions, whatever, you can come up to the microphone that's up here and go ahead and speak.
Testing. It works.
You know, we had not adjourned our meeting yet, so if you want to stay, fine. If not, that's up to you. Okay, Eileen?
Yes, I had an open forum question, not related to this presentation, but the previous comment by the treasurer regarding the reserve account and a settlement putting money into the reserve account for some use. Could I ask you to be a little more specific? How much the settlement and how much are you talking about? If I may ask that, thank you.
Okay. There was an agreed settlement statement between the master and the Federation when we settled. The Federation agreed to pay $40,000 to settle the Master Association suit against it. The $40,000 was paid by the Federation's insurance carrier. Neither party admitted liability, and that is all we're allowed to state regarding that settlement. Thank you.
Any questions for the board? Any statements anybody would like to make? Without objection? What? Okay. Without objection, the meeting is adjourned.